Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengal fan on all the major platforms. I'm joined as usual with Sam Schneider from Primetime Sports Talk, and we're going to go over it wasn't a win, but it also wasn't a loss, and it's kind of there's a certain symmetry to tying the same team you tied when we had them. I still remember the presser with Donovan McNabb saying, "I didn't even know you could tie," and then he took all the flack for not knowing the rules. But here you go. So we're going to start with the good and the bad, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get right
let's
into
do
it,
it. So
baby.
to me, the biggest bad thing, and this is aside from the 8 sacks we allowed, which was inexcusable. This was in addition to why we kept running down the right side. How many times did we throw the ball to Mixon, and he already had a guy 3 yards deep on him because of Hart and Johnson? I mean, you can pull, you can do all that. All it did was create like a rugby scrum to where we had half the bodies in front of Mixon. It was just, that was frustrating. I thought the hit by Malik Jackson was dirty and he should have been ejected. Hopefully he gets a FedEx envelope from the league. But the biggest thing I want to talk about is situational football. I talk about it all the time. We had a drive. We were 3rd and 5, and we lose containment on Wentz, and he runs for 21 yards. They eventually scored on that drive. We lose containment on Wentz on the last drive in regulation, and he scores a touchdown. I mean, just inopportune times. The one that drove me nuts, absolutely drove me nuts, we scored to take the lead late in the second quarter, right? The ensuing kickoff, Bullock kicks it out of bounds. And all of a sudden, they're starting at the 40-yard line, and they end up scoring, and then we have our only real big breakdown on coverage, and it happens right there. It's situational football. Get off the field. Just don't make those mistakes. Tell me, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. And the missing on the Wentz thing was bad. And I even wrote in the preview for Primetime Sports Talk that the ends needed to capitalize, and they didn't. They had some good plays, but man, how many sacks did we have where Carson Wentz was just completely wrapped up and got out of them? And it's not like Carson Wentz is Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson. We had him wrapped up.
Hmm.
And then also Wentz on the scramble, Miles Sanders on the outside was disappointing, but I mean, kind of thought that was going to happen. Lawson didn't really come through, but
He did on certain
man,
plays. He did on certain plays, but we had Lawson, Hubbard, and Dunlap either lose containment or not wrap up on a sack, and it directly led to points. I mean, those were plays. Here's another example of the situational football. Overtime, Higgins catches that ball, and we're at midfield, and the next play we give up the sack. It's just, not making the play in the right situation, and that's why we escaped today with the tie. When we were driving and had a chance to go up 11 late in the fourth quarter, that's where we've got. This team needs to learn how to put the game away. Situational football, sack,
yeah,
false start, then we had a sack. I mean, it's just, and then all of a sudden we settle for the field goal, allowing them to come back and tie.
I agree, Mark, and I even mentioned with under 3 minutes in the first half, there was a great pass that was dropped. Higgins completely botched a catch. Auden Tate called for one and got it, and that was great. But there were it was still the same. We go back to last week. After last week's game, Adriel Jeremiah said, "We're almost there. Like, we're fingertips away from this Burrow and receiver connection." And that's okay. That's still encouraging. We all know this is a process. None of us thought we were going to the Super Bowl this year. But it doesn't stop you as a fan from being frustrated.
We won. This was a game we could have won. This was actually a game we should have won. Our secondary played well enough outside of the drive where they gave like 4 penalties or three. They gave 3 first downs on that last touchdown drive on penalties. Jackson needs to not touch the receiver there, and it's going to be a no call. But just frustrating because it's a game. It's a game we could have won. It's a game we should have won. And like I said, and I looked at these little situations. If any, you go through all of them. Lawson and Hubbard missing tackles. By the way, you know what it always reminds me of when we don't wrap up Wentz? The same way we struggle to wrap up Roethlisberger. I mean, it's like he's there. He's this big, immobile, slow guy. I know he can break tackles, but we just seem to bounce off of him. It's like they're Teflon coated. It reminds me a lot of the frustration when I watch us trying to tackle Wentz. It's it's frustrating. But like I said, I went through all this in terms of situational football. I mean, it just hurt. It just hurt. Any one of these things happens, Bullock doesn't kick it out of bounds. They don't end the second quarter, and go into the locker room with the score. We probably win this game. It's just a series of bad situational football. But I don't want to dwell too much on the bad because we always like to cover the good. And we did. We were this close. The refs didn't take this game from us. Okay, we took it from ourselves, and we got a tie. The San Diego game, I think the refs stole that game. This game, we took it from ourselves, but we did come out with
the refs definitely blew that call, and there were
which call
and the hit on Burrow that brought Finley into the game.
Yeah, that should have been he should have been ejected. That to me, that's an eject. That's if you're trying to actually protect the quarterback, if you think Burrow's exciting and good for the league, and everybody, even all the Ravens and Steeler fans I talk to say the division is better when the Bengals are competitive. It's just a better division, and that's inexcusable to not toss Jackson after that hit.
I agree, and there was another one I jotted down somewhere where I thought. I don't even see it right now because I've got so much here. But
I had a couple bad calls. I had a couple bad calls where I thought we overcame them. So then I take them off my list. If we have a bad call, but then we end up converting the first down and keep the drive going, it's not really relevant. Although I take those off my list. It might have been one of those.
Oh, you know what? I actually just remembered what it was. If I can find it. My buddy Pete pointed it out. It was no, it wasn't that. But there was another one where we got kind of hosed by the refs. But I agree with you. When you overcome it,
I forget about it.
You can take it off the list. That's fine. But I did feel like there were a couple times where I said, if we weren't the Bengals, we'd get that call.
Right. Yeah. No, I feel that way all the time. I think we got hosed in week 1 because we're the Bengals. But I want to get to something, and this is a really big, good thing because we've been yelling about this since the beginning of the season. Why is Ross in there? Why isn't Auden Tate and T. Higgins playing? Why isn't Auden Tate and T. Higgins playing? Well, I don't know if they read the tweets or if they finally pulled their head out of their you-know-what, but we put Auden Tate and we put Higgins on the field with Boyd and Green, and wouldn't you know it? I mean, Tate's catching balls. Here's the Tate almost gets called for an illegal block. The refs kind of had a committee and decided to pick up the flag. But the bottom line is Ross would never even been in the play to make a block. More or less an illegal block. That guy's made of glass. He would never have been anywhere in the play. And Tate had a couple really good catches, and you could see Burrow's comfortable with Tate because he lobbed one into the end zone late that Tate didn't get, but he's thinking about him, where I don't think you ever throw that up with Ross in the corner of the end zone. I mean, that's an interception.
Yeah, and Tate was a threat whenever he was on the field today. And I knew you were going to say that. And based on your comments the last 2 weeks, I've actually got Zach Taylor on speed dial. Okay. So I gave him a buzz, and I was like, "Listen, man, you got to get Ross out of there." And he was like, "You really think so?" And I was like, "Yeah, Mark and I think so."
Yeah.
So the Bengals Nation,
but okay.
Bengals Nation can thank us for what a tie, I
Yeah,
guess.
well,
But
you know what? No, this is the emergence of what should be the starting lineup. If you're going to have a healthy scratch every week, it should be Drawn Ross every single week. And the other thing I have, so Tate and Higgins. Higgins, welcome to the 2020 season. Tate, welcome to the 2020 season. God, this is what we should be seeing from now on. And then I want to talk about Joe Burrow because I know I have him on my good list every week and with good reason. But we had 3 or 4 offsides on hard counts. I mean, he's already, pulling teams off with that's acting like a veteran already.
oh yeah,
On that drive in the third quarter where we went down the field, Burrow was 7 for 7, completed 2 key third down conversions. That's the difference between last year's team, the biggest component. I mean, Dalton never had those kind of drives, never was that clutch. That was huge. That was huge.
I agree, and actually, I think in my opinion, and I don't want to take anything away from touchdown throws or anything like that, but my favorite play of the game was Burrow scrambled. He went to the sideline. He ducked a defender like grease lightning, and threw a strike down the sideline to T. Higgins, who was wide open. And it got called back because, and this was what I was going to say earlier about my buddy Pete that I made a note on. Pete was like, the ref said that Peterson challenged it because he said, they can't do that. They're the Bengals. They're not allowed.
Right.
And I thought that was extraordinarily appropriate.
It was
But
actually a good challenge. It was a good
yeah,
challenge because he did go out
no.
of bounds, come back in, first to touch. It's
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it was a bad call. It
right.
was a fine call, but he made the argument that Peterson was on the other sideline, didn't even need to look at it and say, no, that can't happen. They're the Bengals. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. No. But that was the best play I saw Burrow make all day. And well, maybe not the best play I saw him make all day, but that was why we drafted that guy, because he could do that sort of thing.
And it was a little pivot move. He went like he was going out of bounds, and then he kind of turned back in. The defender fell to the ground trying to adjust, and then he chucked it to Higgins. So we're gonna, like I said, it's exciting to watch him. He gives you an immense amount of hope for the future. But just a little short today. A couple little. Like I said, I can go through all these situational notes I put, and if just 1 or 2 of those things go differently, we win this game. That it was right there for us for the taking. So,
yeah,
I'm glad we're talking about a tie and not a loss, but I really wanted the win. When we got the ball back on the after holding Philly in overtime, I really thought we were going to get into field goal range. That's the one where Higgins didn't hold on to the ball, and then the next play was a sack, and we end up giving it back. And the other, I missed one of my big bad things. I got to go back to the bad. Sorry to drag everybody down, and this is every time I watch the Eagles play. This is on my list of bad things. I have to watch Jake Elliott kick for the other team. I mean, that should be our kicker. I mean, I watch it, and I don't think I think most Bengal fans thought what I was thinking. It's like, how typical Jake Elliott's going to come out and put us away with a 53-yarder. Fortunately, we got the penalty, and then they took the other penalty. But you had to be thinking that, how typical Jake Elliott will stick the knife in and twist, right?
Of course. And
it bothers me every time I have to watch, even when it's not a Bengal game. I mean, I'm just watching the Eagles play. I'm like, there's our kicker. And I was talking to an Eagles fan about a year ago, and I said, you're welcome. And he goes, for what? And I go, for Jake Elliott. We gift wrapped him. We spent the 5th rounder. We showed you he was great, and then we put him on our practice squad.
Oh, right? 100%. And he should have been. But and that was one of those. That was one of those Marvin Lewis things that I think Zach Taylor is, I think, trying to change a little bit. And I know there's a lot of people in Cincinnati that are already calling for Zach Taylor's head, which is
too early.
Absolutely. it's absurd. It's
Too early.
absurd. I mean,
He's still learning.
yeah, I mean,
Just like that, he's still going through the process. He's never been a head coach. Heck, he was only a coordinator on Miami for part of a year. Most of the time, he's been a second, a quarterback coach, that kind of thing. He has not been a coordinator. So
a head coach needs 3 years or 2 years. A GM needs three. A good friend of mine said from the Giants said that. I'll take it under advisement. But I don't disagree with that point. And the only I guess plus and bad thing I'll say is that um, everybody is going to look at the plays that occurred and say the offensive line was horrible. They weren't. The offensive line was actually not that bad today, but they were really bad in late fourth quarter and overtime, which was a problem. And as we were talking about in the preview, Fred Johnson indeed did not do well and indeed was replaced after the half by Billy Price, who overall played pretty well.
except
And
for that
I'm
penalty late. He had that one penalty late.
yeah, the penalty sucks, but I mean, you're not going to just not get none of them. I'm not excusing it, but overall, and even Jonah, Jonah, it looked like missed a really bad one on a sack, but it was a Geo. Geo should have had a chip block on that. It
Right.
was early, I think, in the first quarter, where Geo should have chipped a guy, and instead the guy just ran right past Jonah and flattened Burrow.
Yeah. He does that. Geo does that a lot in terms of he's good at pass blocking when he's committed to the pass block. But when he's thinking about his route and he's supposed to chip, he tends to skip the chip or miss the chip. And if you remember the game against the Steelers a few years ago when Andy Dalton was on his MVP season, that whole game and our entire season turned when Geo missed a chip and Dalton ends up it gets picked off, and Dalton ends up having to make the tackle and breaks his thumb. And that
Yeah,
and that whole play started because Geo missed his chip. So that happens more often than you think. But he also I love the call. What about the 3rd and 21? Where we got into the spread and they dump it off with Gio and he runs for the first down. It was like, that's just a great call. Too many times the calls were predictable. That was one where we caught them really expecting a deep ball and got them out of position. So there were a lot of
yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning, Mark, that overall I didn't mind the overall coaching today on the offense or defensive side, except that occasionally when a key play came up, um, it just felt wrong. You know what I mean?
Well, I didn't
there
like.
was
You know, I was going to say I didn't like the running to the right side. I didn't like that we continually tried to run the ball on first down. I want to get Mixon involved, but we need to give him a chance to succeed. And continually running the ball to the right side on first down. How many times are you going to throw out to Mixon and let him get just completely obliterated 3 or 4 yards behind the line? It's not fair to Mixon. That kind of frustrates me because we need to scheme. We need better play calling. I like that call more on a second down play and throw the ball on first. We got to mix it up more.
I agree. We definitely need to mix it up more, and also it's volume. I don't have the stats in front of me, but our record is through the roof when Mixon carries the ball a certain number of times. So you can't just abandon that. So the biggest coaching issue I have with Taylor is it seems like when he falls behind, he panics. And I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's panic or if it's just that he's got Burrow now, so he's excited about
His new
throwing
toy.
the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's excited about it, but That's not how we do. What we do is we run through Joe Mixon. That's why we just gave him a contract. That's why he's one of the most talented players in the league and has one of the best stiff arms available. So you can't just, as soon as you're down, 10-3 or 13-10, you can't just all of a sudden decide to stop running the ball. And Joe Mixon had what, 40, like
Wasn't a lot.
40, like 41 yards rushing or something like that. I
And
mean,
we're not trying to work the screen game in with them at all. I mean,
yeah, I
when
mean,
we do throw a screen, Gio's in the game. So, like I said, it's about mixing up the personnel and the plays. And I don't think we even tried a screen pass to Joe Mixon today. They all went to Gio.
yeah, I mean, he got a couple, and obviously we're, for anybody watching, we're recording this, within 15 minutes of the game ending. So I don't have the stats in front of me, but
Okay.
Mixon having like 41 yards rushing is that's completely. We're not going to win. We're not going to win.
Change. And we won the turnover battle today. So this is a game we won the turnover battle. We did not turn the ball over. And this is a game we should have won. The reason why we lost, situational, 8 sacks, and what are you going to do? It is what it is. I see
Agreed.
progress. I see progress, but not perfection. We're not there yet.
Yeah. One more good thing I'll throw in there is I saw some mistakes from the linebackers, but I also saw really good things. Obviously, Logan got an interception, and that was huge, and it was deflected by Reader.
Yeah, it was the Reader.
Which was a free agent signing, so that was huge. And then late in the third or early in the fourth, Akeem Davis-Gaither was in coverage out of the backfield on a key third down for Philadelphia. I might have even been overtime, and did a tremendous job. So
I think that was overtime. He used the sideline.
Yeah,
he used the sideline to force the player out, and which is what Jackson should have done in the final drive. Don't get your hands up. The sideline is another defender. Close him off and keep your hands down. We don't have that gift first down, which ultimately led to the tying touchdown. So,
well, you already know I'm not a big William Jackson booster. So
I am, but that was he has his moments. He has his really bright moments, and he has his not so bright moments. And we could do a good on bad on William Jackson if we ever broke down film. But so
yeah, I will say overall, I'm still. I know it's a tie. We should have won. I'm still encouraged. I saw some good things in this game. I saw plenty of bad things, but this is a process, man. I'm just trying to win. 5 or 6 games this year, maybe 4 or 5 now because this was a tie. But I still saw some really good things from the linebacking core, from Burrow again. I just want to see more of the running game and a little more from Taylor calling the offense.
Right. I agree. So, well, that's where we're at, guys. So another tie with the Eagles. Sam and I will get together and do a preview video. We've got Jacksonville coming up this week. Once again, we catch a team off we catch teams off the bad times, but we catch a team here off a loss. So I always feel like we're the bounce back team, So like we helped Cleveland get the bounce back. We almost helped Philly today, but we didn't. But we're going to have Jacksonville, who's going to be
Patriots.
What's that?
Patriots is the most notorious one.
Right, on to Cincinnati.
We're on to Cincinnati.
You and I were together watching that Monday night game, and I said to you, when the Patriots got destroyed that Sunday, we were together watching the Bengals, and I said, this is not good for us next week. It's just not.
No,
and I agree. Off of an embarrassing loss, and it seems like that on to Cincinnati has carried on for other teams,
for everybody
since that quote. But we'll get together. Sam, tell them where they can find all your articles and stuff.
Of course, you can find me on Twitter at Buy and Sell You, and I write for Primetime Sports Talk. You can find us at Talk Primetime.
There you go. Well, we will be back. Probably cut it again on Thursday night. We'll put it up, a preview of the Jacksonville game coming up. Let's hopefully we get Gino back. Let's watch the news and we'll go from there. And with that, I want to say hoot everybody and have a great rest of your Sunday.
Who dey?